Welcome and good afternoon. My name is Kamish Orr, and welcome back to something I like to call Stories from the Maelstrom, a recap of the day's games for this past week of real time. Another week and lots more excitement. Let's start in Oakland as the New York Swats head over to play the Oakland Jacks. Actually, this is the third of a four-game series between these two teams. And this one's kind of off the chart a little bit, isn't it? Sorry if it's cut off a little bit, but this was the longest game of the season, 14 innings. As you can see, the Oakland had a solo shot there in the second inning. New York responded with runs, a solo shot of their own from Harry Heilman there in the fourth. They scored two more runs, 2 unearned runs in the fifth to go up 3-1. And Walter Johnson was pitching great until the bottom of the eighth. And that's when Reggie Jackson hit a 2-run homer there in the eighth to tie it up. They would score actually another run, an unearned run there. Lots of errors in this game. Oakland made 4 errors. New York made 2. And those errors would prove to be costly here for the Swats as they allow Oakland to pull ahead here in the bottom of the eighth. However, in the top of the ninth with Mariano Rivera on the mound, Ken Griffey Jr. with 2 outs down to their last out. Ken Griffey Jr. hit a home run to tie it there in the ninth inning. So 4-4 heading into extra innings. And both teams pretty quiet. Oakland did have a chance here in the 13th inning. They had a man on second with no outs. Robin Yount on second with no outs thanks to another error. Throwing error by Alan Trammell, I believe. And could not score him. So heading to the 14th inning, Bullet Rogan on the mound for his third inning for Oakland. And he runs into some trouble. Lou Boudreau pinch hitting for Alan Trammell there in the 14th. Singles to lead off the inning. Eddie Collins follows that with a double, putting runners on second and third. And Wade Boggs hits a sac fly to score a run there in the 14th. But that's all New York could get as Harry Heilman grounded out and Ken Griffey Jr. struck out to end the 14th inning. Satchel Paige comes in to try to close things down for New York. He gets Mickey Cochran to fly out. But Minnie Minoso coming in for an injured Tris Speaker. Speaker had gotten injured there in the 5th inning, running to first on a ground out. And Minnie Minoso hits a solo home run to tie the game. Following that, Reggie Jackson walks and Nellie Fox singles to put runners on first and second with just 1 out. And then Satchel Paige gives up the game-ending double to Rod Carew, and Oakland walks this one off, winning it 6-5. This is Satchel Paige's 3rd blown save of the season. Walter Johnson's great start is ruined way back in the 8th inning. And Mariano Rivera gets his 3rd blown save as well. So 14 innings. Longest game of the season for these teams. Interesting to note there in the 5th inning, we had 3 Oakland errors. We had an error to lead off the inning. Rod Carew bobbled a grounder from Paul Molitor. Jimmy Fox followed that up with a single, and Tris Speaker bobbled that one to allow him to get to second. And then later in the same inning, Tris Speaker once again misplays a ball. So Speaker had 2 errors in the same inning. Alan Trammell also had 2 errors this game. So a couple players with 2 errors apiece. And as I mentioned, there in the 5th is when Speaker got injured and had to come out. in the bottom of the fifth. So that fifth inning was just not good for him. So Oakland improves at 20-24. New York falls to 19-26. Still interesting to see what will happen here in the American League. Heading over to Houston as the St. Louis Wizards face off against the Houston Hoots in the Astrodome. They've split the first 2 games of this series. And this one, Houston is in the driver's seat from beginning to end. Robin Roberts for the Wizards allows 2 runs in the first on a Roberto Clemente 2-run homer. A solo shot there in the second from Mike Schmidt, and another solo shot from Hank Aaron in the fourth. Houston would also score in the sixth. Meanwhile, Bob Gibson cruising into the 8th inning. He got into some trouble but was able to pitch out of it a couple of those innings. And then finally in the 8th, 4 straight singles to lead off the inning, ruin his shutout. He does escape, only allowing 2 earned runs. So Houston takes a 6-2 lead into the 9th. Rube Marquardt on for the Hoots, but he fails to retire a batter, allowing Ozzie Smith to single to lead off the inning. He walks Tim Raines and allows a double from Tony Gwynn to score 2 runs. That's all Houston needed to see as they bring in Lee Smith to close this one out, and Lee Smith retires the next 3 batters to pick up his 13th save. Houston takes this one 6-4. So the Wizards lose 2 in a row to Houston. Houston improves to 21-24. St. Louis still looking for that 30th win. They're at 29-16, but still have a lead of 4.5 games over LA, with LA still yet to play their game this day. Heading over to Boston as the Detroit Rockets face off against the Boston Splinters. Top 2 teams in the American League facing off. Boston trying to hopefully close the gap. They're 2.5 games entering this game. They were 2.5 games back. And they do just that. Scoring late in this one, David Cone on the mound for the Detroit Rockets facing off against Catfish Hunter for the Boston Splinters. And Catfish Hunter allows just 2 earned runs. Lou Whitaker scoring both those runs. One on an RBI double from Kenny Lofton and one on an RBI triple from Ichiro Suzuki in the 5th and 7th innings, respectively. Meanwhile, David Cone allows a couple of solo shots, one to Lou Gehrig in the 4th and another one to Charlie Gehringer in the 5th. He enters the 8th inning and allows a leadoff double to Ricky Henderson and a single to Tony Oliva to put runners on the corners before Ted Williams comes up to bat. Louis Tiant in to pitch for the Detroit Rockets at this point, but he allows a double to Ted Williams to clear the bases and give Boston a 4-2 lead. A couple batters later, Lou Gehrig hits his 2nd homer of the game, a 2-run shot to give the Boston Splinters a 6-2 lead, and that's where things would end. Boston needed to desperately win this one to stay close to the Detroit Rockets, and they do so. They improved to 24-20. Detroit 26-19. So the lead, that gap closes between the Rockets and the Splinters, and they'll have one more game to play between these 2 teams. Finally, we head to LA as the Chicago Docks face off against the LA Dynamos. LA desperately needing a win to stay in this one, with just 10 games left to play and 5 games back of St. Louis, who has lost 2 in a row. But LA has a losing streak of their own to contend with. Greg Maddux making his first start in 2 weeks after some time off for injury. He starts pitching pretty well, but he runs into some issues there in the 6th inning, uncharacteristically losing some control there, walking 3 straight batters, including walking in a run. And then a couple of batters after Buster Posey's walked to walk in that run. Pete Rose hits a 2-run double to put Chicago up 3-1. LA's only run in this one comes from a Johnny Bench solo shot. Jerry Koosman keeps LA in check for only his second win of the season, allowing just 1 earned run on 7 hits in 8 innings of work. Greg Maddux, up until that 6th inning, was pitching pretty well, but he stays in this one into the 7th, allowing 3 earned runs in 7 innings. Don Sutton allows another run in the 9th. That one unearned, though, due to an error from Barry Larkin. So Chicago shuts down LA's offense. LA in free fall here. They've lost 4 straight games, 3 straight to Chicago, the last place team in the entire league. And they've lost 7 of their last 8. So LA is still 24-21, but they see that window closing, their window closing to be able to catch the Wizards. They'll have 1 more game against the Docs before a 4-game set against the Wizards. But at this point, they would need to pretty much sweep that series to have a shot. And as they've been playing lately, not very well, that'll be tough to do. So taking a look at the standings, we see Detroit has just a 1.5 game lead on Boston. Those 2 teams with 1 game left to play in the series. Oakland 5.5 back, New York 7 back. And at this point, we have about 9 games left to play. Boston and Oakland have an extra game there to play because of an earlier rainout. In the National League, St. Louis still has a 5-game lead over LA. Houston's 8 back and Chicago 13 games back. But Chicago and Houston continue to play the role of spoiler here. LA is going to need some dramatic turnaround here in order to stay in this one and have any chance. We'll see how they do in their final game against the Docs. But that's where we leave things today. If you'd like to check this out, head over to baseballmaelstrom.com, and you can check out the stats, the game write-ups, and all of that information, the standings and so on. If there's anything you'd like to see for stats, let me know, and I'd be happy to delve into that in a future video. I plan to do a video each game day as we head to the end of the season, and of course, once we get to the World Series between the top 2 teams, American League and National League, then we will play those games, and I'll have videos of those games for you to watch. So, thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. Consider clicking the like button if you did. Consider subscribing so you don't miss any of the future action going on here. Still trying to figure out what the next project's going to be after this one wraps up here in a couple months. Until then, thanks again for watching, and until next time, have a great evening.